Hi students, and welcome to Technical and Business Writing. Today we're going to go over your first lesson, which is just kind of an overview or introduction to technical communication. Get the slideshow set up. I'm your professor, Kyle Smith, instructor. You can call me Kyle, you can call me Mr. Smith, you can call me Professor Smith, whatever it is. I'm not picky about that sort of thing. Email me, let me know if you have any questions throughout the semester or after this first lesson. I'm here to help you. All right, first of all, what is technical communication? Now, I want to kind of breeze through this PowerPoint. Feel free to pause, take notes, whatever you need to do. Again, there's no quiz over this, but this is essential information you will use throughout the rest of the semester, so I encourage you to pay attention. I'll try to keep this video as short and concise and to the point as possible. Well, technical communication is any sort of technical document that you create for work or the work that you plan to go into. It could be a proposal or an email even. Email is a technical document, or it can be. Reports, podcasts, help files, instruction manuals, blogs, wikis, which are just collaborative sort of websites where users can edit information themselves, like Wikipedia. These technical documents, this type of communication is usually used to help others learn something, carry out a task, make a decision, or reinforce attitudes or even motivate readers to take action of some kind. This type of communication, these documents require sometimes listening, speaking, reading, writing, or all four. Not always, but generally, at least three of these, in order to analyze a problem or solve a problem or help your audience, whomever you're trying to reach, to solve a problem. Or to find and evaluate evidence. If you're working for an HVAC company and some of the manufacturers' HVAC systems are not working correctly, you would want to, take photographs and cull together evidence that suggests that, hey, these aren't quite up to standard, and draw conclusions. Now, you may be drawing conclusions for your audience, or you may be giving evidence to them so they can draw their own conclusions. Whatever that is, generally, technical documents and technical communication require these four things in order to help your audience or your readers or whomever you're trying to reach do these things here at the bottom. Address a problem, include evidence, if there is any, and draw conclusions. Now, what I'm going to harp on this week is knowing your audience, who are you trying to reach, and why you're trying to reach them. Once you know those two things, you're in the workplace, you're a professional now, you need to know who it is you're trying to reach with this document, even if it's an email to your boss, and why you're doing it. You've got to think about those two things before you set down to create this document. That could be writing an email to a boss or a colleague, even a friend. Technically, if you're writing a friend or texting them, it's not a technical document per se. So you don't need to think so much about who it is you're trying to reach and what it is and why it is you're trying to reach them. That's just casual communication. But if you're at work and you're trying to address a colleague or a coworker or your boss, you need to consider those things. Who is my audience? Why am I doing this? Then you're ready to go. You would need to consider your audience if you're giving a presentation at work. If you've created a technical document to present to your coworkers or say you want a raise at work. Generally, anytime you're going for a raise, you need to include a bullet point list and an email for why you should get this raise. What have you done to increase profits or to increase awareness? What have you done, generally in measurable terms, to better this company? That's going to help you get a raise. Once your boss sees or the higher up see that you've done something to help the company, that you're indispensable, chances are greater that you will get a raise. So giving presentations, that's another example of technical documentation. Creating visual aids, it's a big part of it too. Charts, graphs, facts, figures, and visual elements. This is important. You don't want to give a presentation that's just all words, all text. This PowerPoint I'm presenting to you, it's for my students. I'm considering my audience. And if I just had words up here, it'd be really boring, really dull. You would check out. So I know that I need to include visual aids as well, and so will you. for this class and for your future career. So just going back to this idea of knowing who your audience is and why you're doing it, you don't have to do this, but I would encourage you to play around with this. Pause the video. There are 3 scenarios here. Write to your significant other a message explaining why you were arrested for something outrageous. Now just make something up, some crazy reason why you were arrested. But you've got to consider your audience here. You're writing for your significant other. You don't want them to break up with you, I'm assuming. So write a message that's that presents your side of the story, why you did this. Again, that will take on a certain tone. You'll use certain words. But the goal here, why you're doing it, well, they're going to find out about this crazy thing you did, right? They're going to find out anyway, so best they hear it from you and your side of the story. That's your purpose. Then take 3 minutes, write a message to your rich, wealthy grandmother. Pretend you've got one. I don't. My grandmothers are dead, and they weren't rich. But just for the sake of this exercise, pretend you have a wealthy grandmother who has you in her will, who adores you. She's going to find out about this outrageous offense that you committed and possibly omit you from her will. And that would be devastating, right? Again, different audience, different reason why you're writing. You want to smooth things over while still being honest and forthright. But again, consider your audience, wealthy grandmother, and reason, purpose. You want to stay in her will. And then write a message or explaining to a small child why you committed this crime. Maybe it's your own child. Maybe you have a child. Explain why you did this and why they should never do this. Again, you would use different tone, a different vocabulary, because you're considering your audience and why you're doing it. So for every technical document you create, for this class, consider whom you're trying to reach, why you're doing it. Technical documents address particular readers. We talked about that. This is a specific audience you're trying to reach. It consists of words and images. It's reflective of whatever organization you're working for, their goals and their culture. Now, if you work for Apple, they have different goals and different cultures and style manuals and words you can use and words you can't use and images you can use and images that you can't. As opposed to a university or college, which might have looser restraints, but still it would be very formal, professional looking, because you want to attract students who will ultimately reflect well on that college or university. It could be a hospital, it could be a plumbing company, whatever that is. You need to familiarize yourself with their goals and their culture, their workplace culture. You want to use design. You want to use it well to increase readability. We'll get into that further in the semester. These documents are often produced collaboratively, so they're generally not something you create on your own. It's something interactive and collaborative, so you want to make sure you're a good team player. And again, this is to help your readers or your audience solve a problem, usually, or address an issue. Hallmarks of technical documents should be honest, should be correct, should be concise, which just means it should be to the point. Not a lot of fluff, not too many words, not too many images. You want to get your point across in a way that doesn't overload the reader with information. You want to make sure it's accurate and clear, that it's accessible, that it's comprehensive, meaning you've covered all your bases while not getting into the weeds too much. Make sure that there's some substance to it. Again, it should be professional in appearance. We'll talk about what that means later in the semester. And even later on in this PowerPoint. And then you want to make sure that it's usable. You're not creating art here. This isn't an art class. You're creating technical documents for a very specific audience. This isn't to be hung up in a museum and appreciated. It's to help your readers use something or learn something or solve a problem. So here's an example of really bad technical design. I want you to pause this video, just look at this, and see if you can tell me why this is terrible. Well, we've got about 5 or 6 different fonts and sizes some really cut rate emojis that are just not eye pleasing unless they're in a text. They don't belong on any sort of technical document. There's no cohesion here. There are so many different colors, so many different fonts. There's no flow. Again, this is really, really bad design, something you'd want to avoid. As opposed to something like this, which is just, you can scan this just with your eyes and tell that it's meant to give instructions for something, in this case, EasyPay. We've got maybe 3 different font or typeface sizes, all in the same typeface, high contrast, black on white, clear, concise communication. There's not too many words, there's not too many images. They all work together to relate information. This is an example of good design. Last tip before I let you go this week, talking about fonts or typefaces. Generally, a well-designed document will have 2 max. I would suggest just sticking with 1. And you can vary the size if need to for your headings and then for other text. But generally, the 2 types of fonts that work well together are called serif and sans serif. A serifed font has what's called serifs on the ends of the letters, like this T here. These are serifs. This is like Times New Roman, a little more traditional in appearance, as opposed to something like Arial or Helvetica. These are fonts or typefaces that do not have serifs. They're a little more modern, contemporary in appearance. If you're going to use more than 1 font, you only get 2. I would choose a serif font and a sans serif font. They balance one another. They provide a little bit of contrast. They work well together. And then avoid crazy fonts with like curly cues and party fonts and things like that. That does not look professional. All right, this week you have to read the first chapter in your textbook. I know that's a little dry, but you need to read it just to familiarize yourself with what we're doing this semester. There is a question that you need to answer. You need to pull up the Cisco College page for this assignment, and you're going to evaluate it based on what you've learned in the chapter and here in this PowerPoint. You're going to remark on its how pleasing to the eye it is, if it's clear, if it's concise, if it's well designed. You're going to be the judge of that. And then that's it. That's all you have to do for this first week of class. If you have any questions, email me, kyle.smith@cisco.edu. I will get back to you as soon as possible. And I look forward to learning more about you and having this class. Thanks so much.